Strain theory depicts crime as a form of adaptive problem-solving behavior, usually committed in response to problems involving frustrating and undesirable social environments. Strain can be thought of as the pressure that individuals feel to reach socially determined goals. The classic statement of strain theory was offered by Robert Merton, who developed the anomie concept, which is a French word for normlessness. Merton used this term to mean a disjunction or a lack of consistency between socially approved means to success and legitimate goals. Merton maintained that legitimate goals involving such things as wealth, status, and personal happiness are generally portrayed as desirable for everyone. The widely acceptable means to these goals, however, including education, hard work, and financial savings, are not equally available to all members of society. As a consequence, crime and deviance tend to arise as alternative means to success when individuals feel strain of being pressed to succeed in socially approved ways, but find that the tools necessary for such success are not available to them. The basic idea of Merton's anomie theory is that most people strive to achieve culturally recognized goals. A state of anomie develops when access to these goals is blocked to entire groups of people or individuals. The result is a deviant behavior characterized by rebellion, retreat, ritualism, innovation, and or conformity. Crime results predominantly from innovation. So let's go through these. Conformity is the acceptance of cultural goals and adaptation to social change. Innovation, this is the acceptance of cultural goals but non-recognition of legal means to achieve those goals. So where there's a lack of opportunity to participate fully in socially acceptable means of success, but wants success but can't for other reasons, so they turn to stealing to reach those or selling drugs to attain those goals. Ritualism is lowering or abandoning the cultural goals and maintaining legal means to achieve them. These folks have little interest in goal achieving, but they got the good education, they got a good job, and they appear middle class status, but they care very little about the symbol of success. Ritualism. Retreatism. They reject the rejection of cultural goals and legal means. So these folks might be dropouts or homeless or drug abusers. They separate from the larger group. And then there's the rebellion. And these are the combating the objectives and the means to change social structures. So these folks seek to replace socially approved goals and means, goals and means, and they want to do that with another type of system. According to Merton, people from lower social strata tend to resort to such means because they have fewer opportunities than higher strata to achieve cultural goals. Institutional anomie. According to this theory, crime is an indirect consequence of the dominance of the economy over other sectors of society. If a society is primarily shaped by economic interests, economic logic permeates other social institutions in areas such as education. This results in a utilitarian behavior on the part of members of society, a decline in social control, and an increase in crime. Institutional anomie theory is an extension of Merton's anomie theory, and Mesner's and Rosenfeld's approach is based on an image of society borrowed from structural functionism. Society can thus be divided into four institutional structural areas, including family, education, politics, and economy. And each of these institutions has a function. Family is reproduction, care, support of a person who needs help. Education, imparting norms and values. politics, monitoring, control of collective goals, that's their function, the economy, production and distribution of economic goods. A proper balance between the different institutions in society is crucial for a regulated coexistence. If, however, the institutions are in a strong imbalance and can no longer regulate each other, collective motives for action, values, and goals in crime ultimately emerge. Mesner and Rosenfeld illustrate the influence of the economy on other social institutions with the following developments. Devaluation of what is not related to money. Accommodation. Sectors that do not come into contact with the economy are measured by economic efficiency criteria, such as examples of these would be companies or universities. Penetration of the non-economic sector with the language and logic of economic efficiency. For example, word imprints from the financial sector find their way into everyday language. The examples in the book were like people who want to get to, quote unquote, the bottom line, or they want to be the manager of the household. Retirees refer to themselves as wanting to downsize. These are all terminology from the financial sector. The dominance of the economic sector is all expressed in the idea of the American dream, according to which material success targets have the top priority, having material success the top priority. Example is, the dishwasher becoming a millionaire. J.K. Rowling's was on welfare, worked as a waitress, and 5 years later she's a multi-millionaire with Harry Potter. The American dream, even though I think she's British. Same concept. The IAT combines Merton's anomie theory, achievement of cultural goals, in this case the economic success, with control theory assumptions, which is influencing other areas of society. According to Mesner and Rosenfeld, the relatively high crime rates because of the dominance of the American dream mythology ensures that many people will develop desires for material goods that cannot be satisfied by legitimate means. Anomie becomes the norm then, and extra-legal means become a strategy for attaining material wealth, i.e. turning to crime. The relative deprivation theory refers to the economic and social gap that exists when people of wealth and poverty live in close proximity to one another. Inner city inhabitants develop an increasing sense of relative deprivation when they grow up in impoverished communities and witness well-to-do lifestyles in nearby neighborhoods. This creates feelings of anger, frustration, hostility, and social injustice on the part of those who experience it, which then motivates them to engage in criminal behavior. The general strain theory. Merton's view focuses on the strain that builds up when lower-class people become frustrated because they lack means for achieving their personal goals. In 1992, Robert Agnew reformulated the strain theory and molded it into a comprehensive perspective called the general strain theory. And there's a video that I have linked onto Moodle from Robert Agnew himself. He's a professor at Emory University, discussing the general strain theory in more depth that you can take a look at on this concept. But the general strain theory sees law-breaking behavior as a coping mechanism that enables those who engage in it to deal with the socio-emotional problems generated by negative social relationships. According to the general strain theory, strain occurs when others do the following. 1. Prevent or threaten to prevent an individual from achieving positively valued goals, such as autonomy or financial success. Or when juveniles compare themselves to peers who are doing better or feel like they have been treated unfairly by someone in authority, like a parent or a teacher, they might act out against that person. Remove or threaten to remove positively valued stimuli that a person possesses, such as a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, or death of a loved one. A person may try to prevent that loss. If it's a breakup, they might seek revenge. Or number 3, threaten to present someone with noxious or negatively valued stimuli, such as verbal insults or physical abuse, pain-inducing social interactions. For instance, a older sibling might turn against their younger sibling and hit them or strike them in some fashion if they were the subject of the physical abuse or that negative stimuli. They may in turn act out against somebody else. Agnew sees the crime-producing effects of strain as cumulative and concludes that whatever form the behavior takes, strain creates a predisposition for delinquency or crime in those cases in which it is chronic and repetitive. Predispositions may be manifested in the form of negative affect states, or what they're referred to as emotions such as anger, fear, depression, and disappointment. Consequences of strain theory. Factors that increase the likelihood of criminal coping include poor conventional coping skills and resources, the availability of criminal skills and resources, low levels of social support, weak peer associations. These are just to name a few. Coping with strain. Not everyone who experiences strain commits crimes. Some have taken measures to eliminate strains that are conducive to crime, removing individuals from exposure to strain, equipping individuals with the traits and skills needed to avoid strains that are conducive to crime. Mostly those are done through programs that are available. The general strain theory. This is the graph from the book, page 189, that shows how it works, what the sources of the strain are, what the negative affect states come, and then what happens as a result of one of those sources. I think I lumped 2 of the sources of strain into one. My number 1 that I read off, I combined into the first 2, failure to achieve goals and the expectations of achievement. I put as 1. They have them 4 in the graph. I think it's 4 in the book as well. Overall, as we round out the social structure theory and the views that fall within that entire hierarchy of the social structure theory, I've laid out with their major promise, strengths, and research focus. The next theory we are going to discuss in this chapter is cultural deviance theory.